Hey, we got a question here from J.M. Wagner who says, Bruce, can you think of any ideas or stories that Vince was adamant about and you thought didn't work, but you did it anyway?
Probably a lot. Wow. I got to think about this. I think going back and thinking about timing. So Hakushi, and these are going to be ones you're going to go, what? Like Hakushi and Bret Hart.
Yeah,
I felt that Hakushi could have been a player,
I do too.
but Hakushi needed to be built first.
Yes.
Instead, Hakushi was brought in, put with Bret, beat next.
Yeah.
In seeing him originally, it was like, man, this guy could possibly be in a main event level match at WrestleMania. You could see him as an opponent for the Undertaker. You could see him as an opponent for the championship against Bret. There were quite a few possibilities, for the future for him. And, you look at some of the. I wasn't there when Hulk and Ric Flair had their time in WWE and did live events that failed. I think that no matter what people thought in their different sides, there were different sides. You needed to build that in one place and build it. Same thing. It just needed to be built. And sometimes either things were rushed or cut off before their times. Um, wasn't, wasn't a fan at all of Beefcake and Hogan is the team to face Savage and Zeus.
Hmm.
It just came out of nowhere because Beefcake was Hulk's buddy.
Who would you have preferred in that spot instead?
Frankly, I would have preferred the one-on-one with Savage in the corner, and then built to whoever it is that we could have gotten. Whether I would have rather had Tugboat, frankly, than Beefcake at that point, because Beefcake was so limited in what he could do. His face had the mask. There wasn't a whole lot he could do.
Wait, hang on. I think we're getting the timelines confused because Beefcake, you're talking about
He, no,
SummerSlam.
no, I'm talking about SummerSlam, and that was actually before. That was before.
Yeah. SummerSlam was pre accident. That was 88. You're
Sorry.
thinking about 93.
Okay. Beefcake had the face without the mask. It was very limited for him.
Okay. I'm with you.
Okay. I was trying to be nice. I was searching for something.
You just
but
weren't, you didn't see him at
I
that
wasn't.
level.
To me, it was a complete force to make Hulk happy at the time, and it didn't fit. You know, there were also things where we were looking at No Holds Barred. Was there somebody in No Holds Barred?
Oh, okay.
You
Okay.
know, Stan
Get the guy
Hansen.
who played Randy or something out there in his corner if Randy's in the other corner.
Yes,
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
But again, you had brand new guys. You could have used an Abdullah the Butcher. You could have used Stan Hansen. There were other talent that were out there that could have come in and been on the heel side or the babyface side. Keep Rand if you wanted to, keep Randy as a babyface with Hulk to go against Stan Hansen and Zeus. Or you could have brought Hansen in as Hogan's buddy from the movie.
Okay, so you're saying in that other scenario, because I'm interested in this, in a post WrestleMania 5 world, have a story where Hogan and Savage reunite and get back together to fend off Zeus and perhaps Stan Hansen.
Or an Abdullah the Butcher or
Okay.
somebody like that. But there was also talk. Look, there was also talk about Stan Hansen coming in and working a program with Hulk Hogan.
Wow.
That never happened, never materialized. I don't think that ever got past the talking stages. But if you're talking about a what if scenario, what if Stan Hansen had come in and Stan Hansen had been the partner of Hulk Hogan and be like, yeah, I was on that movie set. And this goddamn guy over here, this Hollywood actor thinks he's tough. Well, I'm going to show him how tough he is. That would have fit.
Yeah.
And you could have made someone new, actually two people, but you had Hogan Savage as your anchors.
Right. So
you
use it to
made
get
two
other
new
people
around them.
Why didn't the Hanson thing develop? Was it based on schedule? Because we know that everybody wanted to protect their Japanese money. I get that. They're making good money. It's a limited schedule. You can't have photos of them doing jobs. I understand all that. But I also know that he could have, I shouldn't say I know. I feel like working on top, he would have made more than what he was making in Japan, but he probably would have had more dates. Was he concerned that if he did lose on a national or global stage like the WWF, that when his WWF run was over, it would have affected his marketability in Japan? Or am I overthinking all that?
I couldn't even begin to tell you what Stan was thinking. I know that he had a great gig in Japan. He had a great gig with making good money and a great schedule. Why, if you've lived that life for so long and there's really no end in sight, why would you jeopardize that to do something else for more money, but a lot more work that would go into that? So I am only surmising and guessing. If I'm Stan Hansen, I would think, you know what? I've got a great schedule and making great money. I get to see my wife and kids and stay home and not be on a plane every day. I'm going to keep this gig for a while.
Man, it's so fascinating to think about what if. You just casually sort of threw in Abdullah the Butcher. Do you remember having conversations with Vince about Abdullah the Butcher? Why did that never go anywhere?
I don't know. I don't know if Abby, Abby had a good reputation. Abby had a bad reputation. And for those that loved him, they loved him. For those that didn't, they hated him. So I don't know where Vince fit into that, other than there was never any feeling that Abdullah could come in and work a steady schedule, which is what he would have to have done, and been able to hang up here on with the kind of schedule that we were running at the time. I remember bringing in Joe LeDuc from Montreal, and Joe was, boy, you talk about tough. Joe was a crazy tough guy, crazy French Canadian. But Joe hated the schedule. Joe was another one that came from No Holds Barred, but he hated the schedule. He was like, "Oh my God," he'd worked territories. He drove in between. Now all of a sudden you're in LA one night, you're in Chicago the next, you're in Montreal the next night, and you're back to San Diego the next. It's not for everybody. So that didn't last long at all. But Joe was one of those that was looked at as a big monster, tough guy that could be an opponent for Hogan at the time.
Really fun question here from the Rosen Coaster. He wants to know, when watching WWE programming on the hard camera, why does the entrance ramp come from the left side on the TV screen? Is it a particular preference from production or something to do with the buildings?
No, it's just usually you have to know where your VOMs are in the building. For those who don't know what a VOM is, it's a vomitorium. And in ancient Rome, when they built the Colosseum, and they built these big Colosseums where they used to have the gladiators come and fight, there were sections in the Colosseums called vomitoriums, because the rich would drink so much wine, and they would and just gulf a bunch of food and cheese and salami and pastrami's and pizzas and popcorn and whatever, and then they would drink to excess, and then they would vomit. And the vomitorium was the area that they used to vomit into, hence called the vomitorium. These became parts of arenas and coliseums when they were designed in later years. The use for them is that's where you bring in your larger items. If you're going to set up a stage, if you're going to set something large up in the arena, you need a vomitorium. You need an area where you're going to bring a lot of these in. They're also used for entrance and access to the floor for the audience in arenas today. But we still call them, the vom. And that's why, they're called vomitorium. So your question is, and I'm going to answer it now, is essentially that's usually the largest open end of the arena is off to the left, and you want to shoot into an audience. You want to shoot into an audience full of people. You don't want to shoot into an area that half of the time is going to be empty, and I'm just looking at a logo or doors or an entrance or something like that. That just looks bad. You want to shoot into people. You want to see people having fun and being involved in what you're presenting.